what I will do is teach you tonight on God's loving kindness. Maybe tonight and next week, the loving kindness of God. Okay? Because as we are reminded next weekend of the coming of the old covenant to a close, we are now in the new covenant. And I think the teachings of faith and obedience sometimes gives us the impression that if we do certain things, God will bless us or reward us with certain things, which is a true statement. However, as we live, we know that there are plenty of times that we disobey the Lord. Have you ever disobeyed the Lord? Okay. Now, when you disobey the Lord, does He stop blessing you? But you violated the covenant, the stipulation of the new covenant. So how come God still blesses you? There are still some measures of blessing, even though at times we fail. That is where the subject of God's loving kindness comes in very handy. Now we have to explain that because some people begin to think that because God is love, that they can do whatever they want. Well, that is not also a balance. So we're going to look at all of those things. Let's start with Psalm 92, verse 1. It is good to give thanks to the Lord and to sing praises to your name, O Most High, to declare your loving kindness in the morning and your faithfulness by night. Look at that. Loving kindness in the morning, faithfulness by night. Let me read that to you from the Tanakh, the English translation. It is good to praise the Lord, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. So loving kindness is translated as steadfast love. Okay? Steadfast means it holds on steadily. Okay? And it says at daybreak, when you begin to see the sun rising, you begin to proclaim that God's loving kindness will clothe you that day. And then, of course, during the day, you begin to realize one or more points, you fail Him. But you realize you're not dead. And so you realize that it is His faithfulness that manifests. So, loving kindness at daybreak, faithfulness at night. Let me read to you Psalm 40, starting on verse 10. Psalm 40, verse 10. By the way, what versions are you using, guys? I'm using NISB, as I said. What do you have? New King James, that's good. I have not hidden your righteousness. Next year, I'm gonna be using CSB, just to let you know in advance, okay? So if you're planning to buy a new Bible, prepare for next year, we're gonna be using CSB. I have not hidden your righteousness within my heart. I have spoken of your faithfulness and your salvation. I have not concealed your loving kindness and your truth from the great congregation. You, O Lord, will not withhold your compassion from me. Your loving kindness and your truth will continually preserve me. So now the preserving power is in the compassion and loving kindness of God. Now, the preserving kindness, incidentally, in the Old Testament is related to the covenant of salt. There is a covenant in the Bible that is called the covenant of salt. And so now, you have compassion, you have loving kindness, which is actually beyond covenant. It's part of the covenant, but it's beyond covenant. You know, I'll explain that later. So let's begin to understand what loving kindness is. The Hebrew word is chesed. Say it with me, chesed. It's like your chesed, you know, chesed. The most basic definition of this word is deeds of devotion. Deeds of devotion, faithfulness, favor, loyal deeds, so therefore loyalty, or unchanging or steadfast love. Okay? So now you're taking into considerations the ideas of favor, the ideas of loyalty, and the ideas of deeds of devotion. Alternate translation includes mercy or unfailing love. So, that word, chesed, is used around 250 times in the Old Testament. And this is one of the most important words when you study the concept of the covenant. You cannot talk about covenant without talking about mercy or loving kindness. Because I will tell you this, nobody fulfills the letters of the covenant, old or new. Nobody. The Bible says that everybody is found guilty. Okay? So you and I, even in the New Testament, we are found guilty. And so, that excludes boasting. Even if sometimes we feel self-righteous, it really excludes boasting. Now, with that definition also, at the very heart of this word, loving kindness, is mutual responsibility between covenanting parties. So, if there is mutual responsibility, it assumes relationship. I don't think you can carry on responsibility properly unless there is a relationship. You say, why is it that some members of the families are irresponsible? They don't, whatever they say, there is no depth of relationship there. You know. Say, for example, the moment you begin to see one of the members or one or two members of your family just totally irresponsible, there is no depth of relationship. That's why it's hypocrisy when somebody says, well, I'm part of the family, you know. Well, if you don't sense responsibility, there is no depth in relationship. Okay? And I will begin to dig deeper on that concept. Therefore, God, because of His relationship to us, He is the Creator, we are the created, He is very responsible. But us, because sometimes we don't look at Him as our Creator, so we are detached, we don't see any relationship, we become less responsible. Now, you can apply any concept. Like, for example, in the United States of America, a lot of people coming here doesn't feel the relationship with this country. The other expression of the relationship is what you call us patriotism. Okay? That's the relationship. Because they don't feel that relationship, they don't feel responsible. I can tell you the politicians who are not patriotic, even if they say most of the people in Congress are not patriotic. They just signed that ridiculous omnibus spending bill of $1.3 trillion. A lot of our great-great-grandchildren already owes, they say to pay that, each member of society has to pay something like $200,000. You know. Now, that is irresponsible. So if they say, that's why when people say they are patriotic, yeah, but you are very irresponsible. There's no patriotism there, okay? There is no relationship. If you really feel that you are close to something, you will preserve it, okay? Now, in the context of God and man, sometimes in our primitive thinking, we say, why doesn't God just annihilate all of us and start all over again? Well, because there's a relationship. You say, how is that possible? Of course we understand this. Some of us have our own garbage. We feel a relationship with our garbage, so we don't get rid of it. You know, why do you keep that picture frame? Well, because my great-grandmother gave this to our family. So there's a relationship there. Yeah, but it doesn't look good. You're not even displaying it. But it came from my great-grandmother. That's the relationship. So even though it deserves to be burned, you don't burn it. Because there's a relationship, you know. And so that's why some people are more attached to garbage than to people. because they will preserve garbage in their house, but they will not preserve relationships with people. You see that? Now, the moment you begin to look at it that way, say, whoa, that is actually the depth of connections, okay? Now, in the context of covenant loving kindness, there are mundane tasks. You have to be responsible. You do certain things to preserve certain things. God says, I love you all, but you will notice that God is very responsible. He makes sure that we stay on the right path. He provides. He disciplines. He does all of those things. Because what kind of image, can you imagine God is holy, right? And then He produced kids that are very unholy. The enemy of God will say, look at your children. They look awful. And God will say, oh, it doesn't matter. I'm omnipotent anyways. I can just change things. Well, yeah, but the character of your children are corrupt. It doesn't matter. I can just change things. Well, that will become very irresponsible. Part of the responsibility is nurture. Okay? And that is very tedious. Now, that is part of love. Now, let me just apply this immediately, the concept of loving kindness in the context of a covenant. Now, I already told you responsibility, right? So, for the covenant to work, the expressions of love has to be there, which includes commitment to the covenant. Now, two parties are coming together and they decided they will continue the relationship. For example, I entered into a covenant with my wife. We decided we're going to have a marriage covenant. Okay, the closest thing to covenanting in the Old Testament is marriage day. So, we decided that we're going to enter into a marriage covenant. Now, I said commitment, I said responsibility, I said love, right? Now, is my wife perfect? No. How come you answer so slowly? Let me ask that again. Is my wife perfect? Now, am I perfect? You see, you answer faster than when I was asking about my wife. So now, the two of us are imperfect. Now, covenant involves responsibilities and commitment. But when you have two imperfect beings entering into a covenant, it's bound to have mistakes. Right? Therefore, part of that relationship is nurture. Meaning, we are not perfect, we are perfecting our relationship. Now, that's why with God, He says, be perfect. That's covenant. What He is saying is, hey, listen, I am perfect. He said, be perfect as I am perfect. I am perfect. There's nothing wrong with me. I will never make mistakes, but you will. So when He says, be perfect, what He was saying is, I will nurture you to be like me. So, He took into consideration possibilities of mistakes. That's why look at our relationship with our children. Our children can be making enormous mistakes that breaks our hearts. If there is a relationship, we still do our best to nurture that because there is this understanding of imperfection. What oversees that to nurture imperfection is loving kindness. Okay? Now, when we talk about the loving kindness of God, we are talking about what He is doing, what He is showing, and Him keeping the promises. Oh, well, I don't want to get lost on this one. So that is a sworn statement, okay? So when me and my wife got married, some people are removing it right now. For richer, I forgot. With money or no money, you know. Sickness and in health, till death do us part, right? Is that right? And then, of course, there is the, for example, my part as the man, there is that oath that I will protect her, I'll provide, I'll do all of that. Am I always able to protect her? The answer is no. Am I always able to provide for her? The answer is no. You know, she told me sometime later, you know, I was wondering why sometimes she will be making money before $300 in 1 month when we first got married. And then her phone bill is $350, you know. I'm telling you, it is enough reason for somebody to lose their salvation, you know. Here you are short of funds, and then the phone bill. And it's not even cell phone. It's landline, you know. So what's this called? Well, sometime later I found out, and she just gonna ease up in telling me this. She would ask, I think her dad, for help, without my knowledge. Why? Because there were times I could not provide. Now, did I take an oath that I will provide? But there were times I could not provide. And so, during those times when I could not provide, she did not come to me and say, "You promised!" Huh? And that, I mean, you do that to a man. The man starts transforming into a woman, you know. Because he begins to lose his dignity and confidence. I mean, especially with muscular women today, you know. They come to you and, "I thought you will provide." Oh, that takes away something from her. She did not do that to me. Will it be right for her to say, "You took an oath that you will provide"? Yes, she will be in her proper place to say that. However, something goes beyond that. Okay? Beyond that covenant. That's loving kindness. Okay. So, loving kindness is actually tested, or mercy is tested, when what you promised, you are not able to fulfill. Yeah. That's when it comes in. That's why the mercy of God, the loving kindness of God, is rich in the Scriptures, especially in Psalms, especially in the Vedic writing. Because David failed in so many ways. That's why he always asked for the mercy and loving kindness of God. Because what he had sworn, he was not able to fulfill. So he went beyond the covenant. You know, he went beyond the covenant. He went to the heart of the covenanting partner. And that is the mercy of God. So, loving kindness is God keeping every word, giving every blessings that He had promised. And in human terms, even if we do not do our part. Okay? Again, the illustrations is best in families. I'll promise my kids, I know whom I will promise. Say, I promise I'll buy you your new shoes, you know. My wife likes it when she hears the promise. I'll buy you new shoes. If the child of mine whom I promise I'll buy them new shoes, does something that is very displeasing, immediately my wife will hang out that promise of new shoes. Well, James, I thought I was going to buy you new shoes. So the moment she says that, I'll immediately be upset. I'll say, don't say that. Because my promise of giving him new shoes because he needs it has got nothing to do with who he is. Now, I want you to dig into this. It has really nothing to do with who he is. It has something to do with my love for him. That I saw that he needs new pairs of shoes because his shoes is winking, you know. You know, this new shoes today, it's made out of canvas material, and the holes keeps getting bigger and bigger, you know. And if your child really wants to emphasize that, they'll put their finger on it, you know? And, oh, Papa, it's getting bigger. Well, because you're stretching it, you know, it's getting bigger. But you don't want any of his toes singing in the rain. So you say, I'm going to buy new shoes. But then if he becomes disobedient, my wife will say, well, I'm going to think twice about your new shoes. The moment I catch it, I'll immediately be upset. And don't say that. Because it has nothing to do with that. That is something that is beyond that. It's a promise that I made. And doesn't matter if he looks ridiculous. I'm going to buy the thing, Now, of course, you don't condone that. Now, you say, can you see that from the concept of loving kindness of God in the Bible? I'll show you. There are three ideas involved in this word chesed, okay? Strength, steadfastness, and love, okay? Strength, when you talk about loving kindness, you're talking about strength, steadfastness, and love. Now, earlier we talked about responsibility, relationship, and commitment. Now, let's talk about strength, steadfastness, and love. Okay. Love without strength and steadfastness will be relegated or have the tendency to simply be romantic and sentimental. Why? Because without strength and steadfastness, it actually lacks the vital element of commitment. No commitment. If I'm in love, that's romantic. Okay, that's feeling level. Oh, I'm in love, but you need to put some strength to it. You know why most people don't trust in politicians, especially me. I don't trust in these politicians, Republicans or Democrats, especially Republicans and Democrats, especially the independents and the libertarians, all of them. I just don't trust them, Why? Because they show love during campaign. I love the American people, I love my constituency. I'll do everything. I'll work hard. Remember that Nancy Pelosi thing, let's pass it so we can read it. So now the Republicans just pass it without even attempting to read it. What is that? It lacks strength. That's why it's not patriotism, it's not love. You see? For love to be really love, there has to be strength and steadfastness. That when you say, this is what I am going to do, even if you feel pressure. That's why he who wants to live godly on our Sunday studies will suffer persecution. Now, that's why when God said to mankind, I love you and I will save you. Now that's, oh God, thank you for understanding me. That's us. We feel the romantic element. Oh, thank you for loving me, Lord. But then we continue to become unfaithful. So here comes a time to pay our sins. God says, I will put strength to what I told you. So he sent his son. By the way, when Jesus died, he is not just dying. He is dying not only on behalf of humanity. He is dying on behalf of divinity. Because divinity could not die. So Jesus became a man to die. Now, is God one? Are you sure about that? 3 in 1. Parang yung Pilipinong kape, no? 3 in 1, yeah? Right? So how can one suffer without the other suffering? You see my kids, when my wife is tutoring them, they will stay late at night, all of them, from Joseph to Joel, all of them. And they will be struggling with my wife. But what they cannot see, because they are all young when my wife is tutoring them, is the one who really suffers the most there is my wife. And then me. Because they'll be doing homework until 2 a.m., I'm going to bed already, and I have nobody beside me. So I suffer the most. You see, but they think they think they're suffering because they're struggling. But when you say, I love you, it involves strength. That means, for example, if you are a parent, when you say, I love you, children, when they need to be disciplined, it requires strength from you, that you will discipline them. But if you have no strength, there's no love. Okay. Again, you can apply it, a family, nation. Look at our nation. Good illustration, because I'm very upset with that omnibus bill, that garbage that they pass, you know. Can you imagine, there is no strength for them to say, you have so many entitlements there. I mean, you are funding Planned Parenthood, who doesn't know how to plan. What do you mean by Planned Parenthood? It's a wrong name. You are not going to be a parent. You kill your kids. So it can't be Planned Parenthood. It should be Planned Singlehood, you know. That's how it should be. I think they got something like $500 million from the government on that one. The Republicans have absolutely no strength to say no. Oh, the government, let the government shut down. People have been existing without the government. We will survive, believe me. Has the government ever visited you when you're going to work? They will never visit you. People are bloating this up. Let the government shut down. You know? Well, the lawlessness, buy a gun, you know. Protect yourself. That's what you do. But what I'm saying is this. They have no strength. The level of weakness on these government leaders that we have is so appalling. They're just so weak. But very romantic during the campaign. You see. They should be able to tell the citizens, well, priority in spending. We don't have the money. We will not fund the National Arts Endowment. Stop funding that thing. Stop. Now you have to fund sanctuary cities still. You cannot defund that totally. I mean, what are you going to do with the citizens there? You know, you're going to let them starve. You can't do that. You have to be selective in how you defund certain things. But our legislators just simply doesn't have the strength. Do they really love the country or the Americans? The answer is no. You see? Strength is when you tell your child, if you don't do this, there are consequences. And they don't do it. You implement the consequences. That's strength. If you don't implement the consequences, and you say, oh, because I love you, that's romantic love. It's not going to accomplish anything. Okay. It has to have strength. It has to have steadfastness. Now, strength and steadfastness without love is cold and legal. On the other hand, some people, well, this is what we talked about. This is what we talk about. Yeah, but don't be cold. You're too legalistic now. You see? Because you have to take into consideration the imperfection. Now, I may disagree with this omnibus bill, but look at this. Our president said, well, the greatest thing that I like here is the military spending, because our military has been decimated. So, you see, when you begin to talk like that, he's trying to put logic in what, I still disagree with him, but he's trying to put reason. I don't like it, but I have to do this. You see? Now, this is the balancing act there. Obligations will be performed, when they are performed without passion, it's just dead. You know? That's why love has responsibility, right? In the old days, okay, you marry this person. I mean, I don't know how they learn to love. That's why love is growing. It's because to preserve the wealth, to preserve the strength of the families. But then if you are married to somebody that you don't feel anything for, what is that? That's just cold. You see? That's why the royalties and the rich, the aristocrats, when they do that and there's really no feeling, it is an unstated understanding that both parties will have extramarital affair. Because they will find somebody that make them feel love. However, look at this, the irony of this corruption. So they are married to somebody because of responsibility, right? They have mixed extramarital affair. They feel something. But that extramarital affair has absolutely no responsibility. It's hidden. You know, if the person gets sick, he cannot visit. He doesn't want to be discovered. There's just no responsibility. Both are wrong. What needs to be done is mix them into one. That there is this responsibility, commitment, but there is this feeling. You know, I feel responsible for my wife, but I do feel for my wife. In fact, the first thing that happened is feeling, attraction, because she's very pretty. So I was attracted. That's the first thing. And then you grow, you develop into responsibility. You cannot have. That's why you test dating relationship. I mean, you begin to ask, who is spending all the time? Man, if only one side is spending all the time, believe me, the other side is very irresponsible. You marry that couple, oh, that's not love. One certainly loves, but if you spend all the time, I don't know, I haven't done a job. Hey, listen, then don't date. If one person is doing all the spending, all the sacrificing, and the others are just all the benefits, that's not love. Because they have to have strength, steadfastness, and the romantic element. Now you have those, what do you have? Loving kindness. You see, love, kindness. Kindness, doing something beneficial for others. So God has His strength, but He sustains us with strength also. That's the loving kindness. That's the covenant thing. That's why, later on, I will read it to you. When David sinned on the case of Bathsheba and Uriah, what should have been done to David? Under the old covenant. Kill him, right? I'm not going to stone him. I'm going to mutilate that guy, you know. With all the sins, right? So what did David do? He appealed to the loving kindness of God. He did not say, Lord, I fulfilled the law. He didn't say that. He violated the thing. So he appealed to His loving kindness. And he even begged, oh God, take not your spirit from me. You see that? Take not your spirit from me. Because he saw what happened to Saul. Saul was just legalities. There's nothing there. It's an empty shell. You see, when there's no feeling, it becomes an empty shell. So now, if you balance all of this, loving kindness or chesed is actually a warm-hearted generosity and goodness, not merely loyalty. Look at this. The elder brother of the prodigal son was very committed, steadfast, and obligated. I took care of your properties. I did this. Absolutely no feeling. He could not understand that it was his dad feeling for his brother. His dad already explained, son, everything is yours. I'm not going to take anything away from you. Your brother has squandered everything already. He didn't say that the prodigal father is going to take from the brother. He said, what he is spending is what little, well, he still owns everything, but what he is allowed to spend under the terms of the covenant. Put ring on his finger. That's the fatherly ring. It's not a wedding ring. It's the ring that the father gives to the son, especially a vagabond son. You know, gives him a ring to show you're part of this family. It's a family signet. Okay, that's what it is. The dad buys that. Put clothes on his back. That's probably his father's clothes. Okay, that was put on his back. So he's not spending anything. The eldest son could not understand that. He cannot go beyond the letters of the law. But the father went beyond that. What he was saying is, he's dead, now he's alive. He's lost, now he's found. What he was saying is, son, I'm not talking about the law here. Why? Because the moment somebody is dead, law has no more effect on him. See that? That's why it was emphasized. He's dead. Meaning, let's not talk about law here. It's beyond that. He's raised from the dead. You cannot penalize him twice. He was already separated from me. There's no double jeopardy. Now we will have nothing because you're still alive and you own everything here. But as far as I'm concerned, he was dead. That means whatever penalty there is needed has already been done. He died. Now he's back to life. It's a new beginning, you see. What was exercised there was God's loving kindness. Now let's apply these three ideas. Again, in marriage, this certainly has the elements of legality, responsibilities, and obligations. Okay? There has to be a devotion that defies logic. Let's look at Hosea and Gomer. It defies logic. Well, because God commanded him. You look at family. Chesed is what the Hebrews use to describe an ideal family. You see, we Christians, we don't study this enough. But, of course, the Hebrew family, the idea of chesed is very strong. Okay? They believe that this is what binds the family together. Now, this includes, number one, mutual caring. The key word is mutual. I cannot care for her one way. There has to be a caring back. You know, like for example, if I show love to my daughter and she's not giving me back any love, it's gonna die. Because mutual caring. You know, I care for you, you care for me, and then providing for each other. People say, well, you know, he's the one with money, or she's the one with money. Let the person with money provide. No, it's mutual. I'm not saying equal amount. Okay, that's why it's amazing in the Bible what God implemented is tithing. Okay? People don't realize it, how blessed we are that God implemented tithing. You know. Why? Because it's based on your income. If your income is $1, your tithe is 10 cents. Somebody suggested to me here before, no longer attends here. He said, Pastor Jose, he said, I think you need to, he told me this, I want to give to the church. I said, then pay your tithes. He became quiet. The guy has money, you know. So he said, he became quiet. Then he said, I have a suggestion. I said, what? Why don't you tell me how much I should give? I said, no, I can't tell you that. He said, why? I said, I don't know how much money you make. He said, and if you tell me how much I should give, everybody should give that much. I said, no, it doesn't work that way. I said, God doesn't work that way. You see, that's legality. That's why I like what God says. I want you to bring that. That's why the widow, when he gave the widow's mite, the lady has no more money. And when she gave 2 mites, she dropped it on the poor's tithe. It's not the tithe in the temple. Why? Because the tithe in the temple is going to be a choice of silver or gold. That's what they use in there. He dropped it on the poor's tithe, meaning I am poor, I am giving towards the poor. She has nothing to tithe. Okay? She has no income. So what she has left are 2 mites. What she had before had already been tithed. So she dropped it on the poor box. What is that poor box? Remember what our study on tithing? A poor Levite and a poor stranger or foreigner or a poor Jew can get from that. It's benevolence fund. He's already poor, she's giving to the poor. Now that is the beauty of our relationship with God. It's not an amount, it's a percentage. Such that if you are a student and your money is just $1, 10 cents. I started tithing when I was in 4th year high school, you see. And that's the beauty of our relationship with God. But there's got to be providing for each other. Among Filipinos, we understand that. You may not be able to provide financially, but you provide service. That's how reciprocity is done in our country. Then protecting each other. Oh, there's got to be some protection. You cannot, a house divided against itself will not be able to stand. And that's why you're seeing America continually collapsing in all levels. Why? Because our house is very divided. You know. Incidentally, if you will study the history of America in the Declaration of Independence, there is one thing that our founding fathers demanded, especially Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, and Thomas Jefferson. These three. They demanded, if we're going to declare independence, they said, it's got to be unanimous. Because they know. They say, one colony defects, we will be destroyed. That's why the states who cannot vote yes, they did not vote. They did not contradict. They did not agree, but they did not contradict. They are absent, but it's got to be one. You see, there has to be mutual caring, mutual provision, mutual protection. If I will protect my wife, she also has to protect me. Meaning she cannot put me in a position where I will be unprotected. You know why our executive branch right now is so much in trouble? Because of the leaks. There is no protection for the president. Yeah. Well, yeah, what about if he's making some mistakes? That's why the Bible says love covers the multitudes of sin. Now, it doesn't say condone. Okay? For example, Anne knows all of my weaknesses. She's not in Facebook telling everybody about my weaknesses, taking my pictures about all of my weaknesses. Why? Because she loves me. She covers multitudes of sin. Okay? So, for example, when a man or a woman in a relationship gossip against each other, there's no protection there. If my wife starts gossiping against me, then she is no longer protecting me. If I start gossiping about my wife, then I'm no longer protecting her. If my kids starts gossiping against me, they're not protecting me. If I start gossiping against them, oh, do you know DJ? You know who DJ is? Huh? You know what she is? You know how she eats? You know how? I'm no longer protecting her. You see? There's got to be mutual caring, mutual provision, and mutual protection. The assurance that the other members of the family or members of the covenant will be there also when you need them the most. Now, think about this when there is abortion or euthanasia. That is not practical. That's an absence of love. Because the old person dying needs all the love that they need now. Okay, now flashback. When you are a baby and you are totally useless, a baby is totally useless. Can't do anything. What if the parent says, totally useless, I'll just leave you. No, we take care of that, we nurture that. Reverse that. When the one who took care of that baby is old and needs all the assistance, that has to be reciprocated. Because again, it's mutual. Mutual provision, mutual caring, mutual protection. That is, guys, that is now. John just came from his first bioethics conference. And he was, Oh, is that your third one? Or the third one? His third bioethics conference. And he was telling me that in Europe, right? Netherlands. Is Netherlands in Europe? I thought it went to Australia or something. So, so he was telling us that I forgot what you're telling us. 1 in 25 what? So? Yeah. Non-patient requested euthanasia. Meaning the patient doesn't want to die yet, but they just killed. Yeah. That's why, remember when Obamacare was about to be passed, they were deliberating that in Europe, if they have money, when they don't want them to die, they come to America for treatment. We have the best medical care, not Europe. They just kill you there. Oops, you're 75 years old. It will cost $2 million to cure you. Forget you. I'll just kill you. That's what they do. Yeah. And by the way, that's where we are moving into. America. Yeah. No mutual love there. That's not love, you see. Therefore, chesed is often linked to faithfulness. If you are not a faithful, now that's a character. If you are not a faithful person, when nobody is looking, you drop things. Yeah. You just drop things. Because nobody is looking. That's why a faithful wife who can find, a faithful man who can find. A lot of people keep emphasizing a faithful woman in Proverbs 31 because that's all they read. Prior to Proverbs 31, there was a lot of discussion on faithful man or faithful husband, whom you can, how you can find that person. Because faithfulness is best tested when nobody is looking. Okay. DJ, I want you to clear the table. We're eating dinner, right? So she's home. She said, I'm going to ride with Kuya, so I can prepare. Well, nobody's looking. So she said, perhaps, well, Mama is not here. Papa is not here. I'm going to watch TV. That's unfaithfulness. But if she goes about her business, clear the table, this is what I was told, it doesn't matter if people are watching or not, that's faithfulness. And that's why God is faithful, even if we cannot see it. He's always doing things that benefits us. A lot of times, we realize, oh, God did this for me. We don't even know He did it for you. Because He doesn't need you to know, and He doesn't need you to watch. He will keep doing something beneficial for you because He is faithful. Can you imagine if that quality of God comes to us or we live it? You see? I'm telling you, bosses will be most happy if they don't need to supervise and follow up their employees every minute. Are you sleeping? You know, the number one theft right now in all workplaces is time. Yeah, time. Because we are now in a multimedia age. They found out a lot of their employees check on Facebook multiple times. They are being paid. And they are checking on Facebook, doing emails and internet search during office hours. You know what that is? That's unfaithfulness. Because you're being paid. It happens in hospitals. It happens in workplaces. You know? Yeah. There's this commercial that the cleaners, the homeowner came home, and the cleaners were watching the cable TV. That's unfaithfulness. Yeah, that's unfaithfulness. And this is a problem in our society. Psalm 36, verse 5. Your loving kindness, O Lord, extends to the heavens. Your faithfulness reaches to the skies. Well, look at this. Supposedly, loving kindness on man is limited to earth, right? But it extends to the heavens. It's beyond covenant. That's why don't be surprised, and this is where you will begin to see the hand of God in your life. And it has to be mutual because there will be no mutual benefit unless there's mutuality on this one. You will find that God spares us on things we should not be spared. Can you imagine if God is legalistic? Oh, you did not do this, you did not do that. We'll all be dead. But now loving kindness is not just a quality. God is loving kindness. It's His personality. It's just like a parent or a child. When there is a proper relationship, you say to the parent, how come you keep expressing your love towards your children when they are very unfaithful? That's the personality. You see? The parent is not now, has moved into genuine love because it's no longer just obligation. There is this warm-hearted devotion. Okay? And this is what God's shown to us. And next week, we will proceed on that one as we celebrate, as we memorialize the death of Jesus. That's loving kindness on the cross. It went beyond legality. Because legality-wise, we should have been dead. He went beyond that, loving kindness. Amen? Praise God. Learn something tonight? Bless God. Let's all stand.